Welcome to Pain with a Purpose, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories of resilience, redemption, and purpose. I'm your host, Chris Woods, and each week we will sit down with guests who have faced challenges with substance abuse, mental health, and recovery. But we're not just dwelling on the past. Instead, we'll explore what keeps them driven towards a purposeful life. Join us as we navigate the journey from pain to a purpose. So with that, welcome back to Pain with a Purpose, Season 1, Episode 7 with Jack Delaney. Really appreciate you coming out, brother.
I appreciate you having me, man.
What was it, like 76, like horrible traffic or what?
Not too bad.
No?
Not too bad. I've been in worse.
You drive for a living now at this point.
Yeah. So it's, again, used to it, a little more comfortable being in the car.
Would you rather be swinging a hammer or doing what you're doing now? We'll get into that in a little bit.
It's up for debate.
Yeah, so Episode 7, really appreciate it. I will knock out the things that my buddy helps me out with. He wants me always to plug in the socials, right? Like that means anything. But yeah, so if you like what we're saying, right? Like us on Instagram, Pain W Purpose, YouTube, Pain with a Purpose Podcast, and then Apple and Spotify, Pain with a Purpose Podcast. I can't even talk.
Yeah, you're doing good.
It's been a while. We haven't been in this studio. We're back in here. What a way to break the ice, right? Have a gun in here. So definitely appreciate it. So we'll dive right into it. Where are you from?
So I grew up in Mayfair, which is funny, right? Because I feel like growing up, it was always, what neighborhood you hung out in or what playground you were from kind of dictated, your stature.
So that's different than MP1.
Right.
Okay.
Mayfair,
So you're like the real Northeast, like classy Northeast.
Sure.
Right? Because MP1.
Probably not anymore.
I'm just saying, those MP1 guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no good.
Yeah.
No good.
But then you're a Catholic school kid, right?
Catholic school, went to St. Matt's. I actually went to North my freshman year of high school.
They shut you down.
Year. And then, well, not while I was there. I think their last graduating class was it 09 or was it 10?
I think it was 10.
Yeah, last, I think
it might have been 09 because we had North kids for 2 years.
Right.
Which is crazy. I mean, we could do a whole podcast on what happened to the Archdiocese, right? Is St. Matt's still there?
St. Matt's is still kicking.
Okay.
Yeah. Holding strong.
Because where I'm from, Roxborough, Manayunk, really Germantown, whatever. I went to school in Roxborough, Manayunk,
right.
Catholic school. They shut down all of them. I think there's just one left up in Andor.
Yeah, I think St. Matt's, St. Catherine's, I think St. Martha's is still kicking. There's a couple up there. I mean, St. Matt's was kind of always, saw it as the Mecca.
St. Matt's was?
Yeah.
Well, for CYO football.
For CYO football, CYO basketball, it was a thing. And it's so funny. They have a Hall of Fame. it's
for the CYO sports.
For CYO sports, man. I guess it's cool, man. Whatever you're into, you know what I mean?
Listen, I mean, they took that shit serious. I remember, I played football 2 years. One year was pound ball, right?
Yeah.
And the other year was for CYO, which is not pound ball. And the only reason I played is because I never had played before. I wanted to play football my whole life. My mom would never let me play.
Yeah.
Real contact sports. You know what I mean? I played baseball and soccer.
Yeah.
But I remember playing football, CYO, we played St. Matt's. And they took that shit serious.
It was, dude, it was super competitive. There was a
Catholic youth organization. There was no God in those games.
Right, dude. I remember, and just from growing up, man, and dude, I'm not your typical AA, coulda, woulda, shoulda been, you know what I mean? I was a very average athlete. I didn't take much serious, but I held a lot of resentment in my heart from some of those I remember getting cut in 7th grade from the basketball team, dude, and it felt like my world was going to end. You know what I mean? And
back then it was.
Right. Mm-hmm. It was, dude. And how that transpired into just, I don't want to say reasons, but definitely made me super uncomfortable at the time, right? Those things were supposed to be fun for me. And not being able to be a part of that or just thinking that was what made me who I was just kind of, looking back on it, dude, it's.
So did you go on to play sports at Judge too? Or North and Judge or?
Dude, so to be honest, what happened with all that was, like I said, I feel like I didn't kind of recognize this until I got sober, right? But, growing up, like I did a lot of things for other people, right? This fear, this persona I had to put on to fit in with people, or, everybody wanted to be the tough guy. And, even back to like playgrounds and where we came from, I always remember telling people like, I'm from Vogue, right? Because I thought if you were, if you were associated on the other side of Frankfurt Ave, like even though it was like a block from me, right, that it made you like tougher.
Trash.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's how sick my mind was at like a young age, man. So I even based my, high school options off of that, right? I remember I took the test to get into prep, right? And I remember St. Joe's.
I don't care how old I am. Fuck the prep.
Yeah. And, I was the same way until I went there and I shadowed. And I was like, this is a pretty cool experience, right? And I remember walking into that test and, not really giving two shits. You know what I mean? I went in, it was A, B, C, D down the line, and, the effort that my parents went through to get me that opportunity and do all those things, right? Like right out the window, because I want to be tough, right? I want to fit in with like the cool kids. And, I went to North my freshman year, dude. And then, like, as far as sports were concerned, like I played lacrosse. I was pretty decent, dude, but I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you I was somebody. I played varsity my freshman year. I tried out for the basketball team, got cut, another resentment. Right?
How tall were you back then?
I was probably just under 6 foot.
Okay.
Yeah, I was probably like 5'9", right?
What are you now?
I'm like 6'2".
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember getting cut from the basketball team. And politics, whatever you want to call it, I felt slighted, right? And my next best option, I went and I wrestled, and smoking blunts before practice, didn't take too much serious. North's wrestling team was like extremely competitive.
I remember that, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know, man. Like I think back on it, and it was just like it was like trying to fill this persona, right? It wasn't necessarily me, but it was me doing something or trying to be a part of something that I thought, that would make me cool in the eyes of others, right?
Yeah.
And doing all this shit for other people, man. It was again, looking back, and I don't realize any of this until I get sober, right? You know what I mean?
I mean, you bring up a really good point, right? And we're going to go on like a couple tangents, right? But like, how much did I do in early sobriety just because I thought people would think of me a certain way?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Just down to the way I dressed.
Yeah.
Like how I talked, how I dressed, who I hung out with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I wasn't,
sure.
there was a lot of, who knows, right? And like hindsight's 2020, but like I didn't talk to certain people because of like either like what I had heard or what I perceived them as. Like I could have been like, had a great connection with somebody just because I thought that somebody would think of me a certain way. I was like,
Yeah. Dude. And that, I feel like that translates so much into life in general. You know what I mean? And especially, like I said, like growing up, it was always, I joke around, like we grew up, St. Matt's had a rivalry with St. Tim's, right? And then we all go to high school and we realized we're really not that different, right? And then we got to high school. After high school, we went down the shore and we fought all the Bonner dudes. And then we grabbed.
Everybody was fighting.
Everybody was fighting. It was the Delco dudes. Shout out to Joe Arrow.
Oh my God, Joey! Yeah,
Joey. Yeah,
but Joey, he went to Springfield, right? Yeah.
Springfield. But yeah, dude, and it's so funny. Like I look back on all those things, and even after high school, like I said, the rivalries continue with Northeast Philly Delco guys, right? And then the next thing you know, you're either in college or you're on a job site with these dudes. 3-4 years later, and it's like we're all the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We're all scum.
We're all scum. And to your point, right? Like I did such a good job at like judging people from the outside appearance or things that I've heard, and probably missed out on a lot of really good friendships, relationships, and like solely based on the fact that like we might share some common interest. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's weird, man. And I don't know where I picked that shit up. I have no clue.
Yeah.
I used to care so much about like what people thought about me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To the point where like, even like what I'm doing now, right? I think if I really look into it with like Pain with a Purpose and like having like, trying to create a platform of like just speaking freely, right? Yeah. I would have never done this
No.
because like I cared so much about what, like if one person made a comment,
Yeah,
you know, what I mean? Like,
this is it.
That shit's corny. I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, but it's like, dude, like none of it's that deep,
Nah.
you know? And I guess like a lot of that comes with, you know, growing up and maturing, right? But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I honestly think a lot of it has to do with AA and, you know, the 12 steps. To be honest, right? Because, dude, Chris, like, you know, I left North and, dude, I'll tell you what, prior to me getting sober, you would not catch me dead talking about this. I left North Catholic because I got bullied, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I remember being in the disciplinarian's office with my mom, and my mom's like, you're going to judge next year, this, that. And I like kind of held a resentment with her for a minute because, you know, it wasn't necessarily what I wanted, but, you know, from her standpoint, she was trying to protect her son, right? And, you know, I failed to like kind of address that stuff because, you know, it made me weak. It made me this, it made me that. People were going to think I'm soft. And, you know, the mental bandwidth that I had to deal with that at that age was kind of, you know, what do I turn to? You know what I mean? A comfort zone. I try to find comfort somewhere.
So you like already alluded to like smoking blunts before wrestling practice, right? But like, when did all that start? Because like you grew up probably much like myself. You know, I think like 8th grade, probably 7th grade, really was like the first time we like drank.
Yeah.
As like friends, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not you and I, but like with your group of
with
friends,
your group
right?
of friends, for sure.
Shortly thereafter, we were throwing keg parties.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people at those keg parties that never had to go through the pain I had to go through. I don't know why I went down the path I did.
Yeah.
We all had the same opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, listen, we could go down a whole tangent on like, why did it happen to me and not them?
Wired different, bro.
I mean, like, I've stopped trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know I got it.
Right.
I got this thing. I've suffered for a long time, right? I'm not fighting it anymore. You know, I don't try to figure out all the logistics behind it.
Yeah.
So yeah, not to cut you off, but like, when did it all start?
Dude, so I honestly, I was always like, you want to call it the chameleon, but like I always was attracted to like the older crowd, right? Because, you know, I wanted to be in. I wanted to be cool, right? And I remember at a young age, like my dad would come home from work and him and all his boys would be in the basement on Saturday afternoons and they'd be watching football, filling out pools, stuff like that. I'd be running to get beer and like I idolized that stuff. Right. So my first opportunity, I mean, up Mayfair Playground, dude, I think we were drinking Smirnoff Deuces, right? Standing next to, I think it was Whale Skate Center. And there was a 6-pack store right next to it. We would sit out there, try to get a runner. And the next thing you know, dude, I'm, you know, drinking a sour apple Smirnoff Ice, thinking I'm somebody. You know what I mean? Smoking Marlboro Menthol Lights.
Good days, though.
Yeah.
Like, they were great times.
Boaz. I remember the first cigarette I ever smoked was those like 99-cent pack Boaz, and they were like flavor wrapped, like cigarellos, dude.
Yeah.
They were so bad.
Inhaling those things.
Yeah. Thinking to myself, like, I'm somebody, you know? It was, and all just, you know, for approval. Right. And so I remember that was probably like 6th, 7th grade. And then, you know, from then on, like I was just attracted to that stuff. I hung out with my cousins. They were older. They started drinking and I just kind of like followed suit to fit in. You know what I mean? And once I got to high school, that was kind of, you know, it just progressed, man. You know what I mean?
I mean, so, and there might be viewers that like tune in here and they have no clue what Mayfair is. They have no clue what Vogue is. They really have no idea where North Catholic is. But
it's
North
really
Catholic,
irrelevant.
But really it's not, though, because North Catholic is not far from the, you know, a buzzword for, you know, the world at this point, Kensington.
Yeah.
So like you didn't wander down that path that early, or you did?
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not. So up until, you know, and I say it all the time, right? My ideal situation, right, coming out of high school, you know, did the whole senior shore house thing, right? And you know, you smoke weed, you know. I remember the first Vicodin I took was I was actually at a wedding with my dad. And we were in the limo on our way back. We were down the shore and we were on our way back on the island. And my dad put his hand out and he was just like, yeah, he was like, they were passing these things out on the way there. And I grabbed it and I dumped it. I swallowed it and immediately I got a backhand. You know what I mean? And dude, I don't know if I felt anything from it. You know what I mean? I was torched. You were
probably already drinking, right?
Yeah, right. I was like 17 years old
Yeah.
probably. And that was that, right? I really didn't figure out what drugs were until, like I said, this ideal of a man was blue collar, high vis, bartending job,
High
pocket
vis.
full of money, work boots at the bar, Casper's on a Friday afternoon, and like I wanted to be that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I did like a half-ass stint at Holy Family for a little bit. I went to Bucks for a little bit. I did the whole senior shore house thing, came home, got a bar back and job at Patty Wax, and like I arrived, right?
Yeah, it's cash in your pocket.
The cash in my pocket, cash out of my pocket, right? With the, like I said, my ideal version of what a man looked like was a guy that went to work 40 hours a week, came home on the weekends, gambled on football, drank with his buddies, and got up and did it all again on Monday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Now, now I don't know like what your family really looked like, but like, did that all come? So like, I didn't grow up like that, right? So like, I grew up, I didn't even learn about betting like that until like, I mean, like we had a couple bookies in high school, right? But like they got burnt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? South Philly.
Yeah.
Sorry if you're from South Philly. Sorry. But like, I didn't get into that, you know what I mean? Like really into betting until like year 8 of my sobriety. And like, there will probably be like a whole podcast about like how betting can really be horrible. Cause like, I'm just an alcoholic in everything that I do.
Every aspect.
But yeah, so like you alluded to your dad, like, like being around with his buddies, right?
Yeah.
Like, play some bets, whatever. So obviously like you kind of were brought up that way, or at least you weren't brought up that way, but like you like,
that's what I was exposed to. And to me, it was like, that was kind of what you were supposed to be doing. Right. And whether my dad was always like a big do as I say, not as I do guy. Yeah. Right. My parents got divorced at a young age, man. Alcohol affected my family and my life from, since I was born.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I remember they got divorced. My dad remarried pretty early. And, it was just kind of all stemmed from that. Right.
Yeah.
And like, I saw what alcohol did. I knew its capabilities. I knew the consequences that could come of it. But, once I start, it's really not up to me at that time. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Was dad a union guy too? Or
my dad was a prison guard.
Okay.
Yeah.
No shit. I didn't know that.
Yeah. He was the warden of CFCF.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
CFCF Pick, the detention center.
Where was Pick?
Pick's on State Road.
I thought that was CFCF.
CFCF is Karen Fromhold. So if you're going north on State Road, that's the first one, the big one, the pink joint. Next one is the detention center, House Corrections Detention Center, and then Pick's at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I literally thought it was all just CFCF.
Nah, CFCF's Karen Fromhold. That's the newest one.
Side note, if you're going behind CFCF, right? Because obviously I most recently did like a softball tournament at those fields. What is all those back buildings?
So behind CFCF, that is the Women's Correctional Facility. I forget what it's called, but that's what's back there.
Learn something new. All right, so went to North freshman year, right? Left, went to Judge.
Yep.
I also, fun fact, went to North my freshman year. Just happened to be in summer.
Yeah.
No AC in that place. Horrible. Went to Judge. You eventually graduated Judge, went to Holy Family.
Right.
And then
for 30 seconds.
30 seconds. It's either Holy Family or Gwinnett.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
I had a couple options, dude. And like I got into some schools. I could have went to Temple, whatever the case may have been, but Patty Wax was more important.
So yeah, talk more about that, right? So like obviously like once you like kind of step into adulthood, right? I mean, at least that's what we're telling ourselves.
Yeah, right.
All bets are off, right? Like I ain't got to go to school. I could just work.
Dude, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Chris, I had no fucking clue. You know what I mean? I thought I was somebody, right? So I get this job. It's putting some money in my pocket. I was in a relationship at the time. I didn't want to go away. She didn't go away. She went to Holy Family. And disease runs its course, right? You step through that door, more doors start to open, right? And it's all those things that I swore like I would never do. I'm like, it's getting a little easier to say yes once I got a couple in me.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm 19 years old, dude, and I'm, running amok. I'm out every night. I'm working every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever shift they would give me. And then I'm out until after hours at all, till 6 o'clock in the morning, stumbling home and asking my mom why she's pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember my mom, she would sleep on the couch, dude.
Yeah.
She would stay up on the couch, and it was like, I didn't realize it at the time, right? Like, I just thought, like, she knew the deal, right? Like, she knew that I was getting jammed up.
Yeah.
But, like, imagine, like, I have kids now. Like, I mean, like, I can't imagine, like, the thoughts that were going through her head. Like, because she knew, like, what I was doing. She didn't know the extent, but, like, she knew that I was, I don't know if she knew if I was drinking and driving every night, but, like, she wasn't dumb.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They're not naive.
I can only imagine, man.
Yeah, like, I got 2 little brothers now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
How old are they?
19 and 17.
Oh yeah, so they're just stepping into it.
Yes, sir.
Are they like you, or are they completely different?
One of them's got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The other one, I think he listens. He hears what I'm saying. He doesn't just. I think the other one listens too, and you know what I mean. And they're going to run their course, man. I think everybody has their journey. But just like me, man. They grew up looking. They grew up seeing life from a different lens. You know what I mean? And I think when you take that step that we took in getting sober, it forces you to change that lens. You know what I mean? And you start to see things differently, and how this isn't necessarily a requirement to get where we are.
No, not at all. I mean, it brings up like a really weird time, like in our society, right? Like you've heard about like the sober curious people.
Yeah.
And I've most recently been like watching a lot of podcasts because like I have a podcast now. Should probably do my homework, but like turns out like a lot of these people that are like, oh, it's just alcohol, I could take it or leave it, right? And then some of these people are like going down this path of being sober curious and actually realizing that they have a problem.
Yeah.
They're like not easy as they thought. But yeah, absolutely, right? Like, I mean, the 12 steps, we say it all the time, like, my mom could go through the 12 steps. She doesn't have a problem.
Yeah, right.
But like, it's a design for living. It's all stuff I learned, or you learned at St. Matt's. We just disregarded it.
Right.
So, whatever, I digress. So Patty Wax had to come to an end at some point. Did you, all right, so you've been sober 8 years.
Right.
You're 28 now. So how long did you work at Patty Wax, right? Because it probably got like pretty wild.
It got goofy, man.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so I go there and I do what I do. Mm-hmm. Right. I'm a big advocate for dressing up this outside. Mm-hmm. Right. So in the interim, right, people think I'm a good kid, right? And it was always I'm gonna grow out of this phase, right? So I go up there, I meet a bunch of people, and you know what I mean? People start to say, dude, listen, if you need help getting into this union, I got you. If you need help getting in here, I got you. So I remember one of my first bar backing shifts, like it was when 10s were cool. You know what I mean?
Bananas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I remember like, dude, sniffing a bunch of them, right? And dude, I got yellow. I felt like shit. I'm sick. I'm running around. It's Halloween. It's a mob scene in this place, and I'm like out back puking. And I remember my manager coming up to me at the time, and he was just like, "Dude, what do you got? Yellow fever?" And I was just like, "Hey, if that's what you call it, you know what I mean?"
It's a lot of Tylenol, brother.
Yeah, dude. And but it didn't like steer me away, right? It didn't like scare me. And then it was always right around the perk epidemic, mm-hmm. right when 30s just started coming out, and I swore I would never do them, right? And like,
if I do them,
I got a problem.
Yeah, I'm not, not like John, dude.
Yeah, right. And dude, it's fun. I mean, God rest his soul, but I'll never forget. Like the first 30 I ever did was with Nick Quigley.
Oh wow, yeah.
You know what I mean? And we were working like a Drexel sorority party at Patty Wax Welsh, and he was like, dude, just do half and you'll be good. And I was like, all right.
Now, at this point, were you withdrawing?
I didn't even know what withdrawal was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I really didn't. Like, I was out almost every other night, right? And I'm just doing these things because
it was just part of it. Yeah.
It was just a part of the process, mm-hmm. right? And, called me naive. Like I'm like, yeah, these things aren't going to get me. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I was like some super fucking human,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm invincible. And, you know, one thing led to another, dude. And like, you know, I wind up getting that opportunity, right? Guy hooks me up with a job at A&S Sprinkler.
Okay.
Sprinkler
Then
Fitters Company.
All right. So that's not 420. That wasn't. Okay.
Nah.
All right.
Yeah, this was early on, dude. And I was like set up. I was,
Mhm.
you know, passed the test, went through the interview. And, you know, at this time, like I start messing around with the 30s. They start to become, and there was like, there were so many different, like spurts, right? Like I realized that it probably wasn't good what I was doing. So I would stop and then I would go through withdrawal and it would suck. I'd be like, I'm never doing this again until like Friday came along.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like you put like weeks together and then you would go back to it.
Nah.
For like 3-4 days.
Yeah,
and
a
you're
couple
like,
days, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
wasn't that deep.
and then I'll never forget the one time it was like super bad, dude. I was, you know, struggling. I'm working at the sprinkler company and I'm like, dude, I really got to kick this thing in the butt. And that time I really put like a couple months together. You know what I mean? And like just enough, right? Like just enough to be like, all right, like I'll be good.
Still drinking though.
Still drinking.
Yeah.
Right. Always drinking.
Not a
Like,
problem.
drinking wasn't my problem.
Not a problem.
Yeah, it wasn't it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, dude, I remember. So I start working with the sprinkler company for a couple years. And finally I get a call for the union.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I wasn't in the union at this time. The guy just hooked me up with a job in the shop. I'm learning the trade. Right. I have a job set up when I get in the local because I'm going to be working for this company. Right. Everyone's making calls for me, this, that, and the third. Meanwhile, like I'm running to meet dude at lunch to make sure that I don't feel like shit, you know,
Yeah.
just like that whole.
So you knew what it was at that point then.
Right.
Yeah.
And, yeah, dude. So I remember getting the call for orientation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I got a call on a Friday. I had orientation on Monday. And I worked the Patty Wax on Saturday. I was at Casper's on Sunday. You know?
Rolling in Monday, rolling in hot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
If you showed up.
Obviously I show up.
Yeah.
I did a little research, thought they were going to send me somewhere to go take a piss.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't the case.
Oh, tell me you did one of those drinks.
Dude, I didn't do shit.
Okay.
I didn't do shit. Because like, you know, my best idea is like, I'm just going to show up and like tell them I can't piss. Right? Like,
Yeah.
I can't not show up. So I show up. I try to wait this thing out. They're like, listen, brother, you got to go. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right. So I'm like praying to God that by some miracle, I'm going to pee in this cup. And
Yeah.
it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Right. And,
So you actually went, took the urine. Oh my God.
Yeah. Took the urine, put a hole right through the cup.
God, if you're real,
Yeah.
you'll hook me up here. Right?
Yeah,
Because that's how God works.
That's really, that's how I thought.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right. At the time. And, dude, I'll never forget because like at this point, you know, we're trying to outgrow this bartending thing.
Mhm.
Right. And it was always, you know, I remember my grandfather, my dad, or my mom's dad, dude, just like, he was like the all-American man. You know what I mean? Like worked 3 jobs, you know, put his family through Catholic school. You know what I mean? I remember he would come home and he would lay on the floor and he would take naps underneath of the dining room. Like he would lay underneath the dining room table because everybody else be in the living room. And he would have like the Phillies game on or like 610 on his AM radio. And he would sit there and he would come home and he would take a nap right before he went to his next shift. And like, that was the guy.
Mhm.
Right. And I remember him being so excited about me, you know, getting the union job. Like he couldn't wait for that to happen. Right. And then, that happens. And it was like, oh my God, we can't tell grandpa what happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, you know, the shame that I felt from that even was just like I was lying to these people. Like, you know, no one really knew what was going on with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was like a whole other story in itself. Right. You know what I mean? Because like, you know, as well as I know, people back then, especially that generation, like they're not talking about this.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
It's you pick up that shovel and you dig, brother.
I mean, even just talking about it, like I just did an episode with my buddy Steele, right? And it's like people started talking about this, like really talking about it, like for all things considered, like 5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Like when we got sober, like people still really weren't, unless you were in the rooms with your sponsor and like really like having like a serious conversation about some deep stuff. Nobody was talking.
Nah,
Um,
that shit was corny.
it wasn't even like we weren't even at the corny part yet. It just was like,
Yeah,
that's not something you did.
yeah, right.
Yeah. So I can only imagine, right? Like he wasn't talking about any of that stuff.
No, dude. And it was like the, you know, like the secret we had to keep,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you know, as far as everybody else in my life was concerned, like even my dad, like funny story about my dad, right? Like the first time, like we just talked about withdrawal,
Mm-hmm.
like I didn't even know what it was, right? Until one day I realized like I stopped doing these things and like, dude, I feel like dog
You
shit.
got the flu real
You
quick.
know what I mean? And I'll never forget, dude. I was working at Patty Wax. I'm trying not to do perks, right? Because I'm, you know, if I don't do these and I just do this, I'll be all right.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember calling my dad and being like, dude, like I'm freaking the fuck out. I don't know what's going on. I feel
He
like
knew
shit.
at the time or no?
He didn't know until this phone call.
Yeah.
But you know, and I told him, I was like, dude, I've been doing these Percocet things, and like my dad was the man, right? He was like my boy, you know,
Mhm.
and he'd be like, oh, dude, you're doing them, and I was like, yeah. He's like, dude, he was like, stick to the uppers. You know what I mean?
What a great
And
answer
I was
out of
like,
Pops.
dude, no shit, you know? And I remember he told me, he was like, dude, I gotta have you go talk to one of my boys. And he set me up with his boy, and I go over to this guy's house, hands me a Suboxone, right? Tells me to chop it up into 4, take it for 4 days. I won't be sick, right?
Mhm.
And he gives me like a 1/4 ounce of Coke. And he tells me to bag it up, sell it, see him on Friday. And
Next chapter.
next chapter.
Yeah.
Right. And dude, like, who the fuck am I?
Mhm.
Right? Like trying to hold up this persona. Like I feel like at some point everyone was trying to be that like street bubblegum gangster, move a couple dime bags or something, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I tried to fit that persona, dude, and it just wasn't me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was the, yo, you want to go out? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like doing coke with my buddies, and then like I'm in the hole and paying this dude back and bringing up and doing it.
Yeah.
It was insanity, dude. It was insanity.
So what about, all right, so the subs, right? Because that's a whole different thing, right?
Yeah.
And obviously now, just because like, you know, we're sober and we know like what's going on, like obviously Suboxone, methadone, MAT, whatever you want to call it, it's still very much a real thing.
Yeah.
For me, man, like once I got introduced to Suboxone, which was prescribed to me,
Yeah.
like I wasn't ready to like be in recovery or even be
No.
sober or clean or whatever you want to call it. So like, I don't know how long you did it, right? Or like if that was like a thing
Dude.
for you, but like I would get it. I'd sell whatever I could sell,
Yeah.
keep whatever I had to keep just so I just wouldn't be sick. And like for the next like 18 months, it was like the darkest. I mean, I was already like down bad, but like it was like the
Right.
darkest part of my life.
And dude, for me, it was always chasing around to find the next best thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I never went to a doctor, right? It was always bought off the street.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my boy's dad had like a methadone script, and we would grab a couple off of him. And like I didn't even know what methadone was, but I was like, fuck it, dude, I'll do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At one point, I was sniffing Tramadol
Mm.
because like we're broke, and you know,
Yeah.
if I couldn't sniff it, I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know that's a whole nother.
Yeah.
It's the same reason. So it's a whole reason why I still vape these
Yeah,
fucking
same.
things, dude. It's the
It's-
whole motion, the whole hand to mouth.
Yeah, dude, it's out of control. And when
yeah.
I found out what methadone was, you know, not that I did it like that, but you know, dude, I did one of them. I was high for 3 days, dude. I didn't even know. Chain smoking cigarettes, life's great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was like a whole other, you know, situation that I avoided to some extent. But you know, at that point, it was really just like anything to get me outside of myself to not feel like shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It was whatever I was after.
All right. So you went, couldn't cut it with the sprinkler fitters.
Yeah,
Didn't get past the first day.
yeah,
When did the steam fitters come into play? Right? Because like I always knew your name, right? I always joke
Right.
around about you, or joke with you, right? Like that I always knew of you, right? Because like I think we have a mutual friend,
Yeah.
Seagrave, right? Love that dude to death.
yeah,
Fairly certain he's still doing well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's how I knew of you, right?
Right.
Because I knew that he played for St.
Same
Matt's.
math.
He was like the next Christian McCaffrey,
Yeah, he's
right?
the man.
Of CYO.
Yeah, his older brother's the man.
Too bad
Luke's the man.
we got jammed up. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's how I always knew your name, right? And then I got sober, right?
Yeah.
Started to be like, you know, being a little bit more friendly with some Northeast guys. Kept hearing like Jack Delaney, like same thing with Taka, right?
Yeah.
So then I knew you with Joey A,
Right.
right? And I was like, dude's in fucking steam fitters, right? So walk me through that. Like, when did that come into play?
So that was right when I got sober.
Okay.
Right. So, you know, that summer, so I got my sobriety date September 18th, 2016. Right. The summer leading up to me getting sober was pretty influential. Right. Like I said, like I'm this half-assed bubblegum gangster, right? I'm, you know, half-assed selling coke to some of my buddies. We're going out getting smashed every weekend down the shore. And I remember I was at Echoes.
Side note, 2015, right?
Right.
A few years removed from high school. You still getting the summer house?
I got it 2 years after I graduated.
Like that's a Northeast thing.
Yeah, dude.
Taka,
So
I'm pretty sure Taka still got a fucking house.
He still had a fucking house. He had a house when he was sober.
He's still down there with the judge dudes.
Island Podcast.
Yeah.
But that summer, dude, I was staying at my mom's, right? And I remember I was working at PGW at the time, right? So in the interim,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
okay.
In the interim, you know, like I said, I always did these little stints where I would get my shit together for a little bit, and then finally, like, I would get the job, right? So I did the whole PGW thing, right? And now I'm like going to work every day, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I earned this shit, you know what I mean? And then that summer, 2016, I remember I was down the shore. It was July 28th. I had this trip planned to Vegas, Labor Day, and we're down the shore. I'm out with a couple of my buddies, right? I got like probably a little over a quarter ounce of coke on me, and we're at Echoes, and I run into an ex-girlfriend of mine, and she was with her new boyfriend at the time, and like her family, there was never any love lost with her family, right? Like, dude, I can never speak more highly of a family than these people. They were great. And, you know, it was me, right? Like I was full blown in my addiction. And, you know, I'm at Echoes. One thing leads to another. I'm like dancing, having a good time. This dude taps me on the shoulder, asks me to go out front. And, you know, dude, I'm no tough guy.
That's how he has to fight you.
Like we just went outside to have a conversation.
Okay.
Whatever you want to call it. And, dude, it was nothing more than like, you know, him saying a couple things. I said a couple things. I put my hands close to him, you know, and next thing I know, cops got me. I'm sprawled out over a fucking car, and, you know, I'm locked up, right? And this was kind of like the turning point, right? I get locked up. I'm in the precinct down in North Wildwood, in the cell, and I'm acting up. They're asking me for fingerprints. I'm like, I ain't giving you shit. You know what I mean? Like, I want to make a phone call before I do anything.
I know how this goes.
Yeah, right. Like I'm fucking somebody. And there was this guy in the cell next to me, and he's like yelling and screaming, and I'm motherfucking this dude to death, right? And I'm like, I'll see you in county, pussy. Like,
yeah, you were going upstate,
right? Like, come on,
yeah,
you know. And I remember passing out and waking up,
like someone from your nice Northeast family wasn't coming to save the day,
right? Like, yeah. And you know, like plenty of dumb stories like that. But like, dude, this one in particular, I remember like waking up and coming to like, motherfucker, like, who you think you are?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I am not built for jail, buddy. You know, I'm not a hard ass. I'm not a tough guy. I'm not doing time. You know what I mean? I never thought that was cool. I wasn't raised to be that way.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember walking home and having to explain to my mom and my stepdad again, you know, what happened. Right. And, you know, little does this guy know that like that was like a pivotal point in me getting sober.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, couldn't be more grateful for it. Right. Because it really made me, I remember going home and going into the bathroom and looking at myself in the mirror, thinking to myself, like, dude, like, what happened?
Yep.
You know what I mean? And, you know, I made a promise to my mom that September after I came home from Vegas that, like, I was going to stop.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, I went to Vegas. It was fucking miserable. Ran out of 30s the first day. Right. Made the mistake of telling a couple of my boys that, you know, I had them.
Rookie move.
Yeah, rookie mistake, dude. You know what I mean? Because they didn't have a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need these, dude. And, yeah, like the rest of the time, dude, like I made the best of it. Was it the best time I ever had? No. Was it fun? Sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
I came home And then, you know, I made a promise to my mom that I was going to do something. A lot of my friends started coming around, like, you know, like Pat and all them dudes, Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I thought to myself, like, what's the catch?
Yeah.
So I went to my first meeting. It was Fishtown Young Men's step meeting, Saturday morning.
Great meeting.
Great meeting. They were talking about 11-step prayer and meditation. I get my hand up, share some half-ass shit about, like, dude, I want to stop living this barstool pipe dream. And I left there and I got high.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The next morning, I walked into the Stepping Stones men's meeting, 10 a.m. And I remember I seen my old head, Johnny Mack.
Mm.
And he's known me since I was 2 years old. And he looked at me and he said, motherfucker, it's about time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I don't know, man. From that point on, like, dude, I straight up, like, I didn't go to treatment or nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And for the sole purpose that, like, I was feared up. Right. Because my best idea coming in here was, like, I didn't have any plans to stay sober, first and foremost. You know what I mean? Like, I knew if I went to rehab that people were going to be like, oh, he shouldn't be doing that. You know what I mean? And I didn't want that. Right. Because, like, I wasn't.
So God forbid you did pick up. It was like, I gave it a shot. It wasn't that deep.
It wasn't that deep. I could still manage. You know what I mean? So, like, I wanted to leave that door open. And then, you know, first 90 days, a little tough, right? Because, like, we were talking about corny, like, steps, nah. Sponsor, nah. You know what I mean? Like, you want me to talk about what? Nah, fuck it. I'm just going to come to this. And I was lying about having 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, yeah. I was like, hey, you doing, dude? I was like, I got like 3 days. And I'll never forget. That Thursday, I see a couple guys from the meeting. I'm working at PGW. I'm at Ron and Leon walking to get a slice of pizza, and they pull up on me. They're like, yo, Jack, how you making out? I'm like, dude, I'm good. And they're like, how many days you got? I'm like, dude, like 10. And they're like,
your math ain't mathing,
yeah,
brother.
dude. I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. I'm like, but yeah, I'm doing good, dude. And that was like the first, like, you know, came to believe moment.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like shit. I knew I had to do something about it. So, like, I went back to the truck, made a couple calls. And, dude, I had 3 weddings. 3, right? And, like, 2 family ones, like my stepbrother's one that I was, like, in and out of. My cousin's wedding where, you know, I'm the cousin that everybody's waiting for the bomb to erupt. You know what I mean? I'm, like, the guy who gives the bride's brother a black eye the night before at the, you know, at the rehearsal dinner. And I remember being on the dance floor that night, and I'm, like, out of my mind. You know what I mean? And my mom grabbed me by the hand and she looked me in the eye. She's like, I'm so proud of you. And I was like, for what? You know what I mean? And for the first time ever, she didn't have to worry, you know? And that was, like, pivotal. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what I was doing, but, like, I knew I was doing something right. Then I went to my boy's wedding, right? And we know how that goes, right? There's not enough Newport 100 longs on the planet, and there's not enough Red Bull behind that bar for me to feel comfortable.
Not with anything with, like, sober? No.
Right.
No.
And all my boys in and out of rehab, you know what I mean? Back and forth, you know. And I'm watching them go in and out of the bathroom, and I'm thinking to myself, like, motherfucker, like, why him, not me? You know what I mean? Like, well, how can he do that and I can't?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what, dude, like, that was a Saturday. That Sunday, you know, I find myself back in that same AA room and, you know, asking another man for help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In tears, because, like, dude, I really had no idea what the fuck to do with my life. You know?
And that's the crazy thing, right? And, like, we won't dive, like, into, like, the steps or anything like that, but, like, everybody thinks that, like, just because, like, you stopped, like, putting 30s or, like, drinking, right? And, like, you stop doing that type of stuff, that, like, life's going to get great.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, turns out, like, when I stopped that shit, like, my life gets so much worse. Not on the outside. On the outside, people are, like, singing the accolades. They're like, you're doing so good. We're so proud of you. I'm like, really? Because, like, I feel like I'm dying. Yeah. Like, I'd rather die.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the truth.
Yeah.
But I wish I had it in me, like how you kind of did, man. Because, like, I went, those same people, right, that you saw, like, at your boy's wedding and stuff like that. Like, I never took any suggestions. Like, I was like,
right.
You want me to what? Not go back to bartending? I got bills to pay. I didn't have no bills to pay. I was living at my mom's house, driving her car,
right,
using her cell phone that's in her name. You know what I mean? But, like, I got bills to pay. So I would always go back to, like, bartending, dude, and, like, you know, drinking was never my issue.
Right.
Nor was Coke. You know what I mean?
Coke wasn't it.
So, like, if I didn't, like, physically withdraw,
Yeah.
Like I had this perception.
You can't
that,
get
like,
addicted to coke, dude.
Yeah, it was all mental. You know what I mean? Oh, dude. So like I just would go on this. I was just like in and out of treatment, going back to bartending, and like it got to the point where like my coworkers were like, "Yeah, should you be drinking? Like you just got out of Malvern this morning, and
right?
Should you be drinking?" And I'm like, "Dude, mind your business.
Yeah,
it's not. I'm not doing perks no more."
Right?
Yeah, dude. So
yeah, it's twisted, dude. The lies we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
But that same moment that you like had, like you were asking another man for help, right? It was like the first time, like mine was different, but I was like, Mom, like I'm going back to treatment. Shocker.
Yeah.
Like
Surprise.
I can't come back home. You know what I mean? Like I just can't do this no more. That was like the breaking point for me where I was like, dude, I can't do this no more.
Yeah.
I'd be sitting in treatment and I'm like, is this what my life is? It like, this is it. But yeah, not to cut you off.
No.
So, all right. So you asked that guy for help, right?
Yeah. So, and like, dude, like my best idea, right, was, you know, I was going to put like 90 days together, right? And then I'm going to go down to 2nd Street. I'm going to paint my face, put my mummer's costume on and go dance, you know, act like a dickhead with my buddies for a day. And that was going to be like my coming home party, you know? And I asked my sponsor, Pat, you know, and dude, turns out that wasn't a great idea. You know what I mean? And, you know, I sit here almost 8 years later, dude, you know, and in the interim, like getting to the union, you know, I was working for PGW at the time. I knew if I wanted to, you know, if I wanted to make myself more valuable, I had to take another step, right? And I had to get outside of that comfort zone. And, you know, I took 2 tests. I took the elevators test. Yeah.
That's the highest one, right?
Yeah, and I passed it. I passed that.
And you chose 420.
So I passed both. It's crazy what you can do when you're sober, right?
Yeah.
Like you apply yourself to something and all of a sudden, like I become like it's a decent student. Right?
Nicky Miller got in, brother.
Right? You know what I mean?
Shout out Nicky Miller.
Yeah. So, dude, I passed them both, had an interview lined up for both. 420 put me to work, and my 2nd day on the job would have been my interview for the elevators union.
Okay.
So I was like, you know what? This happened for a reason. I stayed put, and then, you know, I kind of took it from there, man. And it was, you know, that union has done so much for me, man. I learned so much, you know, not only about a trade, but I learned a lot about myself, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Seriously, like just from every standpoint, right? From carrying yourself as a professional to like, you're your own brand in there.
So it's a really, I mean, and listen, this was my plan for this whole episode, right? Is like for what you do now, right? Which is completely based on your personal brand.
Yeah.
But I think it really started to come to light when you started advocating for yourself. You started running for office there, right?
Yeah, for
no
sure.
matter the turnout, right? I started to see, because I always watch, right? Like I started to see you like really come into like what I think we're really just scratching the surface on,
Right.
Right.
Who we are.
Yeah, I mean, like you, and I don't even know what the office was, or like what you were running for.
Examining board, very entry level, like
Yeah.
you know, position there. But I mean, dude, I was 5 months out of my apprenticeship.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I was 5 months out of my apprenticeship, dude. And I knew I was meant to do something.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I knew if this was the route I was going to go down, then I had to make a move.
Yeah.
Right. So I started putting myself out there, and you know, I didn't know what was going to happen. Right. But all I knew is that I was working 2 to 10 o'clock down at Thomas Jefferson University. Right. Which gave me a whole morning to go run around the job sites.
Yeah.
So every day I showed up to a job site with stickers, donuts, pretzels, coffee, whatever, you name it. I remember being down Monroe Refinery, standing at the gate, and like, I didn't care if you were a fitter, insulator, millwright. Like, if you were walking through that gate in the morning, you knew who the fuck I was before you left. You know what I mean? And, you know, like you said, like, dude, did I win that election? Nah. Did I consider that a win? Fucking right I did, dude.
Think about it, right? Think about like the skills that you were able to take away from that whole thing.
Yeah.
Right. You know, because if you look at like the grand scheme of everything, you know, you got into 420, right? From the outside looking in, put in your, I don't even know how long it is, but we'll just say it's 30 years, right?
Yeah.
Put in your 30, you're good. You'll have the house in Wildwood.
Sure.
You might have a second house in Ocean City, Maryland. You got the nice place in the city. Everything's kind of guaranteed, right? But like, that's kind of like the whole premise of like Pain with a Purpose, right? Is
Yeah.
like, it's okay to want more.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Right. Think about, and again, like I judge everything, right? I judge everything. I watch everything. And like, I'm always just kind of like in the know. Right.
Right.
Think about like, Gushu, right?
Oh, yeah.
Shout out Gushu, right? I don't even know what he was running for.
He's the man.
But like, I know that he was making waves,
Yeah.
right? I mean, like I watched it, right? I shared it. I fucking, I liked it, right? I don't know how he won it. I don't know if he lost, but like, I'm all for people stepping out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how great was that? Like seeing Pat Gushu, who I really don't know from a can of paint.
Yeah.
Right?
Dude.
Great Northeast Philly accent.
Awesome guy.
Running for office.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's
Love
like,
to see it.
like that's like some cool shit.
Did a lot of cool stuff, dude. I mean, served our country. You know what I
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. He's a Ranger, dude.
No shit.
Yeah, he's
okay.
the man. And I saw him on a job. He was going to the University of Penn, and I was working down Penn's campus, and I saw him, and he was telling me everything that he had going on. And dude, like fully support that dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like you said, I fully support anybody going out there trying to get after it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's super uncomfortable, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you talk about like discomfort and like testing your bandwidth and like seeing what you got. Like it doesn't get too it doesn't get too much scarier than, taking a shot on yourself. You know what I mean?
Listen, like this is not what I do for work, right? But like by all means, like I'm absolutely stepping out of my comfort zone, like getting in front of a fucking camera.
Yeah.
2 cameras.
Yeah.
We got lights on us right now.
This thing.
We got these fucking things on. You know what I mean? Going onto a public platform and just like speaking my mind, right?
Yeah.
Or like that's not me.
Yeah, dude.
As much as people might think it is me, it's not. Like this is something, even if this like, does nothing, right? Like this is again just a life experience.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about, right? Like even if you fall flat on your face, like with what you're currently doing, right? And we'll get there.
I'll be okay.
It all works out, right? Like you think God brought you fucking 8 years into this journey just to be like, this is it.
Yeah, we're gonna pull the rug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went into running for office, right? Examining board.
Yeah.
At what point, did you ever make it into the office for like 420, or were you always just like in the field?
Nah, I was always in the field, dude.
Okay.
Always in the field. Dude, like shout out to all my guys out there. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I had so much fun.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with that either.
Dude, I tell people all the time, I love what I do. I love being a fitter. You know what I mean? Dude, especially some jobs more than others, but like, dude, I've met so many good dudes. I formed so many good relationships. Guys I still talk to today, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, like the financial secretary, dude, and like our old business manager still call me to this day, like checking in, just see how I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like build serious relationships with these guys strictly based off like the people we are, you know what I mean? And, it really is a beautiful thing, dude. And, how I got there, kind of brings me to the whole, like, my dad passed away.
Yeah.
Right. June 27th, 2022. And, I remember, so the summer of the election.
Okay.
Right. That election was in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So he passed away 2 weeks after the election.
I definitely remember seeing like a lot of pictures of like you and him together.
Yeah. And dude, like, to be honest with you, like that wasn't our relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Our relationship was extremely,
metal on metal.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
To say the least. Love the shit out of each other. And, in the grand scheme of things, like we're the same person. Right. And, my dad called me right after Christmas in 21. And he told me he got diagnosed with stage 4 esophageal cancer. Right. Now this man retired, right? Year and a half later, dies.
Yeah.
I remember getting that phone call and going up to his house and sitting in his living room and, kind of just like letting it all out on the table, man. You know what I mean? And like prior to that, dude, like we were probably speaking like once every 6 months.
Yeah.
Like it was, I loved him to death, dude, but I had to love him from a distance.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it was really hard to, I think I resented him for not being able to get sober. And I think he resented me for being sober to some extent.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And, in those last 7 months of his life, though, like, dude, we had, the most influential conversations that leads me to where I am today. You know what I mean?
So your two brothers, your younger brothers,
Yeah.
are they his?
Yeah.
That's tough, man.
Yeah.
That's really tough.
Yeah, man. And
how are they doing with everything?
Best they can.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember my dad having conversation with me, right? And he's telling me about this opportunity that he had when him and my mom first got together. They were about to have me, and my dad, same dude, right? Big personality, carries himself well, knows how, if he's in a room full of people, he knows how to get them to listen. He was the youngest dude to ever be promoted warden on State Road.
No
right?
shit. Okay.
Yeah. Like, he had it. Like, that it factor, like, he had it. And I remember growing up, it was always like, I'm getting a Cadillac. I'm going to get the Escalade. We're going to have the house in Somerton with the pool in the backyard, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was going to make him happy, right? And I honestly think to myself, like, when he shared that story about him being able to go, he had an opportunity to go take a Series 7, right? And he was going to go work on Wall Street. He was going to be an investment banker.
Why do I know that? So that's like, is that strictly for finance? Right. Series 7?
Yeah.
I think my buddy Jack Grauer had to take that. Yeah. It's a serious thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad was a smart guy, right? And, but everyone was kind of like, dude, it's not stable. You know what I mean? It's, you'll have benefits down there. You can move up the ladder. And that was always it, right? Like, you're a guard, right? Then you got to make lieutenant. Then you got to make captain. Then you got to make deputy. Then you make warden. And then you make whatever, right?
Yeah.
And you go up the ladder. And the thing is, lieutenant will make me happy, right? Captain will make me happy. Once I start making X amount of dollars, I'll feel fulfilled. And, from the outside looking in, like, that was never the case, right? And, that again, like, I think back on that and, being in my position, the position that I'm in today, I thought a lot about what he said, you know what I mean? And it was like, kind of like, yo, dude, like, it's either now or never.
Yeah.
You either sack up and get with it, or, you're going to look back on this and be like, why not? Why didn't I?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have that feeling. Right. And, I think about it a lot, and it's like, I bet on a ton, right?
Oh, I know.
You know what I'm saying? And
come back for part 2,
right?
Betting, which
yeah,
got action on everything.
That can get deep.
Yeah,
but I thought to myself, man, like, I knew, and like we talk about the principles that we learned in AA, the principles that I've learned in the union, right, and like everything that it taught me, if I just took that and I applied it out here, right, I knew if I stayed where I was at, I knew the end game. Out here, it's a little more risky, and I don't know what's going to come of it, but I know there's more doors I can open out here.
It could be the most beautiful thing, but you wouldn't know unless you really bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Not to give everybody like your whole story and like how much I know about you, right? But like all right, so you left the union,
right?
Public adjusting, right?
Adjusting.
And then most recently, but you always had like the real estate. You were having an idea. You were like 1 foot in, 1 foot out for the real estate for a little bit, right?
So I got my real estate license a couple years back. We started Build Well.
Yeah.
With a couple guys, and great dudes. And I think it just didn't align for where I was at in my life at the time, right? Like, I had 6 months left of my apprenticeship.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
There were some things that, they went in a certain direction that just wasn't a good fit for me at the time. And, those guys are still killing it, man.
Yeah. I mean, it happens, dude.
Yeah. And, like I said, so all these things that start to happen in my life and start to make sense. Like, after the election, right, my dad passes away, and, I start to get this like burn and desire, right? Like, I start to feel like, what, like, there,
what else?
What else? Right. And not in like a greedy sense, but like in like a purpose sense, and, I talk a lot about my little brothers, man. And I tell these kids day in and day out, right? Like, find something you love, right? And go after it. And, huge part of the reason I did, I made the decisions that I have, right? Because like, if I'm saying, back to my dad, right? Do as I say, not as I do. How do we stay sober?
Yep.
Right? Lead by example.
Taking action.
Right. And if I'm not putting this shit into action that I'm preaching to my little brothers, then like what type of role model am I?
Yep.
Right. And dude, it's funny. Like I remember, so my mom and my dad had like a really funny relationship, right? They loved each other to no end, even divorced, right?
Mhm.
Like my mom, had this unconditional love for my father. And I remember every time I would be frustrated with him or anything that was going on, she would always be like, Jack, like he's a sick man.
Yeah.
Right. And I never knew what that meant. Right. And I remember my dad always used to tell me, you're just like me, son. Right. And and it killed me. Right. Like it ate at me inside. Like I'm like, no, the fuck I am not, brother.
Which is crazy because in the beginning, you were like, this is what I thought being a man was.
Yeah,
and that's
right.
what you went after.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But as we got older, we were like,
realize like that's
fuck.
how distorted that is.
Mhm.
Right. And I remember him telling me that, dude. And I used to get so fired up about it. And, my mom was over my dad's house, like when he came home on hospice. Excuse me. When he came home on hospice, she was over there like every day, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I remember going back to her house the one night and like we're sitting there and we're going through pictures, right? And there was a picture of my dad at, at my age at the time. He was like 31. And, dude, not to say that like my childhood was, any type of different than anybody else's, but there was definitely some rough patches where, I didn't necessarily remember all the smiles and stuff together. Yeah. Right. So we start going through these pictures and my mom pulls out this picture and it's like a spitting image of me. Right. And it's like scary to an extent. I'm like, holy shit. And, and I'm like, dude, I just don't remember these times. Right. And my mom was just like, you know what? She was like, Jack, your father was 6 months sober at that time and he was going AA.
No shit.
Right. And
did you know that up until that point that he gave it like an honest shot?
I had no idea. Right. And talk about like from the outside looking in. You know what I mean? And that's when all this stuff like kind of started to make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I knew that if I just stayed sober, right? And I tried to be like the best version of myself I could be, right? That I could go out and do anything that I could go out and create this life that he was after.
Yeah.
Right. Because I have this, so-called, you want to call it, I call it a fucking superpower, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I really do. I think it's like this unlimited potential. And like, dude, and don't get it twisted. Like I'm not trying to sit up here and tell you that I'm some perfect human being, bro, because there's a lot of people I hurt along the way, especially in sobriety.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There's definitely times where I fall short. Right. And it's that awareness and like, dude, kind of giving yourself a little grace to an extent of being like, because like you said, like I thought that like once I stopped drinking and shit, like I'm supposed to be this like perfect human being. But
it's what people feel like there's a perception of that.
Yeah.
Right. That like, and even us, like I remember the first time I went into treatment, stayed, right?
Yeah.
Got out and I was like, why is my life not getting better?
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly feel like there's like a perception there that's like, well,
yeah.
you're not like, you're not doing what you were doing. Like, what's
you know
wrong?
What I mean? Yeah.
Like, what do you mean what's wrong?
What's wrong?
I'm like, fucking crawling out of my skin.
Yeah. It's up here,
mm-hmm.
Right? Like this is mental health, brother.
Yeah.
Right. And, I used to beat myself up about that stuff and even like, failed relationships, dude, stuff like that. And, just trying to be better, you know what I mean? And like living amends, right? And like, what better living amends to my father, right? Than to continue to just try to be the best I can be, right? Continue to show up for my family, continue to show up for my little brothers and like give them something to kind of like a blueprint, right? Like that's all I'm after, man.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to show these kids that like, yo, bro, listen, if you go out there and you apply the X, Y, and Z to your life and you give it your all every day, you have a shot at doing whatever it is you want to do. You know what I mean? And
again, not saying you're going to fail, right?
Right.
But even if we fail, right, we get back up and we do something else,
yeah,
right? Or we get back up and we go harder at it, right?
Chris,
it is what it is.
Chris, I've spent the past 8 years failing, right? Making mistakes, right? Right back to the point, right? Like thinking I'm going to be some perfect human being just because I stopped drinking and doing drugs. Like dude, make mistakes, right? Like I'm well capable of fucking shit up, bro. You know what I mean? It's what you do after it.
Yeah.
Right. And like they talk about like the insanity is the definition of doing the same thing over and over and over again with, expecting a different result. You know what I mean? And it's really just like, the awareness that we get through the 12 steps and through Alcoholics Anonymous and like talking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like bringing that awareness to light and like taking action.
Yeah.
And the better, I think, the more aware and the more self-aware we are, I think, gives us the better opportunity to make those changes and be those guys, and be that example. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Real estate, right? Just scratching the surface, really. Kind of we're talking about like kind of like laying out a plan for your brothers, like at least like,
yeah,
at the very least, even if they see you fail, they'll see you fucking trying your, mapping something out, giving it an honest shot, right? So now we're going on year 8 of sobriety. Walk me through that. Like, how's the real estate stuff been? It's been good. It's been bad. It's been tough. It's been different. Doesn't matter, right? Walk me through it.
Different, right? I mean, I think in all of the above, right? Scariest thing I ever did in life was get sober, right? You don't know what's going to happen, right? I don't know how I'm going to react, especially when I start getting all these emotions back and things that like I start feeling shit, right? Like nothing's scarier than that. This has been an extremely liberating ride, from all aspects. You don't really know what to expect, but from what I'm learning is, I think it comes from, I came into AA, right? And I don't know if you can relate or not, but I didn't really love who I was too much, right? Through the 12 steps and everything that we've done, all the reflecting, all the time we spend, right? Even on a daily basis of like, getting right with us, right? The better of a job I do at that, right? The better of a job, the better relationship I have with myself, the better relationship I have with those around me. Right. And that translates so well into everything because even now, right, on a daily basis, I'm in front of people, showing up to B&I groups. I'm showing up to these networking events. Right. And I have to be the best version of myself. Right. No matter what the case may be.
Yeah.
And, it's been extremely liberating, dude. It finally feels like I'm doing something with a purpose and the dots and I'm starting to be able to look back and connect these dots. Right. And, the more I stick around and the more I kind of, am around these guys operating at a high level, dude, it really is just like hang the fuck on. You know what I mean? Like no one has it figured out, brother.
I don't know how I'm going to figure out we're live right now. I'm going to get my vape. We're keeping that in there.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, authentic.
Yeah.
Right. And but yeah, dude, it's been awesome. And for the amount of marketing I've done, like very little, I'm pretty busy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People just, just getting in front of people, making it known, like, this is what I'm doing now. This is who I am.
Yeah.
Right. And a part of that comes with the discomfort of detaching from who I used to be. Right. And not who I am, not who I used to be as a person.
Who you thought you were.
Right. And not as a person, but just, everyone sees like Jack, the steam fitter. Right. And now it's like, Jack the realtor, right? And
better call Jack.
All right, and deal with Delaney. #
Deal with Delaney.
And it's been awesome, dude. It really has.
It's a really interesting point though, because if I'm being honest with myself, and like what I think of me, and aside from like my morals and values, right?
Right.
It's like Chris Woods works in drug and alcohol. And for the longest time, and I think I'm honestly like starting to come out of it now and become more of like an authentic person, or at least like that's what I'm trying to be, is like, I was just like Chris that worked in substance abuse.
Right.
And that was like awesome for a long time, but like I'm tired, like I'm selling myself short, right?
Yeah.
I'm not what I do for work.
Right. Doesn't define me.
No. And like, that was a tough pill to swallow, right?
Yeah.
Because like for the longest time, like it's carried me for the last,
Yeah.
coming up on 10 years, it's carried me.
Yeah.
But who am I?
Right.
And turns out like I'm just actually a very transparent person that like just I want to live life to the fullest, right? And like me, don't get me wrong, like I love helping people, but me living life to the fullest was not me being glued to this,
Right.
And this is still very close by, you know what I mean? And I'm still here to help anybody, but like at the end of the day, man, like I need to just be myself. And like that's why I brought up like when you were doing that, what you were doing in the union, right?
Yeah.
Like that was you. Honestly, we talked about like this it factor, right?
Yeah.
Turns out you have it, but it's not like you were forcing it, right?
Right.
Like you were just being you, right? And there's nothing wrong with that.
Bro.
And I think a lot of that ties into like we want more, and that's okay,
Dude. And you know what's funny? Like you mentioned, like being natural and being yourself, right? And you're right. That whole political thing, finally felt right.
Mm-hmm.
And let's put it this way. I took a test, went to an interview. I went to an apprenticeship for 5 years, and I learned how to weld.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now,
Great skill to know, by the way.
it's a phenomenal skill. And again, I have the utmost respect and gratitude.
Joey A always said your welds weren't, top notch. But
Hey, listen, buddy, I just throw the metal in there, man.
You know what I mean? Joey,
no
Joey
bubbles,
A.
no troubles. If it ain't leaking,
Joey
Joey
A
Lake,
can-
he can slick it in there. Yeah. Guy can lay some metal. You know what I mean? But to that point, like I went to an apprenticeship. I learned a trade, right, and I performed it well, right. Is that necessarily something that God gave me? Right, and I think back on that, right, like the characteristics that God gave me and exposing that, right, and using that in my everyday life. I believe that aligns with purpose, right? And that aligns with why we are here. And I think the more you step outside of that comfort zone, right, again, of who people think you are, or people, there's some people out there that I haven't seen since Patty Wax that still may have this vision of Jack Delaney as this, 22-year-old skinny kid running around like a maniac. And, and that's all well and good. But like, who I am today is truly based off of the work that I've done and the person that I look at in the mirror in the morning, right? And being able to tell that person that like, yo, dude, I love you. You know what I mean? And are some days harder to do that than others? For sure. You know what I mean? But I think it goes back to that daily reprieve, man. Like it's never going to be perfect, right? But it's always going to be okay.
I mean, especially working for yourself, right? Like, and I don't work for myself, right? I work for a company, but I am in a role where if I don't plan my work, right?
Right.
I'm not going to work my plan, right? And like what that can look like any given day is like, if I'm not starting my day like that, right? Like, yo, like, like I love myself, or like, my self-worth, or being fired up to attack the day.
Right.
I mean, dude, I could just be spinning my wheels until lunchtime.
Right.
And if I'm doing that and I'm in a marketing role, that's like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, man.
Especially with you. Like, I don't know how it works with, the outfit that you're with, right? But like, unless they're like producing like high level leads, right? If you're not advocating for yourself or selling yourself, or
you're not getting business,
or telling people what you do for a living, or actively seeking new clients, you're not getting nothing.
You ain't getting shit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, and it's, I'll tell you what, I got one of the best compliments I ever got in my entire life. It was like 2 weeks ago. Right. And it was from my tattoo artist. Shout out Heart of Gold Tattoo Club, Cullen Quinn.
A lot of shout outs this episode.
Dude. So I'm there. Right. And, I was getting the right side of my neck done. 2 hours.
Say goodbye to the 9 to 5.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, so he's saying, he was like, I was telling him that I had this B&I group to attend 2 hours after that, right? I was there at 3:00. I was leaving there at 5. I had to be over at Medford Country Club at 6:30 for an event, right? And
You had a tea time.
nah, it wasn't a tea time. I wish it was a tea time,
Yeah.
right? But it was the first time, dude. Just like some of the rooms that I've been in the past 4 months, like
Unbelievable, right?
unbelievable, man. And I don't even know how the hell I got there, but
Just being yourself.
being yourself, right? And he hits me with this. He was just like, dude, you got what? And I was like, I have this this B&I group I have to go to over at, this country club in New Jersey. And he was just like, dude, you got a Band-Aid on your neck. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to peel it off. And he was like, want to know what I love about you? He's like, and I felt this way since I've known you, the past 3 years, doing your tattoos. He's like, you are unapologetically yourself. Right. And I took a minute and I thought about that. And I was like, you know what? Fuck, I'm right. You know what I mean? I used to do a lot of people pleasing. I used to, and like we talked about, I let people's perception of me dictate who I was.
Or your perception of what they thought of you.
Right.
Yeah.
Even better said. And, today I don't have to live like that, man. I show up on a daily basis and I'm Jack Delaney. You know what I mean? And how liberating that is, right? For, feeling like being trapped for so long to, not drugs and alcohol, but like, the thought of, what are people going to think, right? Like, what are people going to think if I come out here and I do this and I fail, I
mean, it says a ton, right? And I didn't even think about it until you just said it like this, right? But I think this is a whole reason why subconsciously I started this deal, right? Is like, you want to talk about pain with a purpose, right? I mean, like, we think on the front end it's about like, drinking and drugging and the pain that we went through, but think about the pain that you went through people pleasing, right? To eventually not give a fuck and find that purpose, right? Yeah. And that's like kind of like what I'm currently going through too.
Yeah.
Think what you want. Yeah. Say what you want. At the end of the day, I still got to hit the pillow by myself. So it really doesn't matter.
Exactly, dude.
And with me potentially, right, finding that purpose, who knows what those doors can open up.
Yeah, man. And I think that's like the thrill in it all, right? Because, and I'll speak for myself here, but like, dude, I have no idea what's going to happen. You know what I mean? I have no fucking clue.
I have a pretty good idea that it's going to be okay, though.
Right. And, and I think, we talk about money, we talk about things, we talk about more, right? And I truly believe that, connected to all that, like the root and the foundation of all that is this, right? Like, is the purpose behind all of it, right? My mother, special woman, you know what I mean? Unconditional love. Like I don't even have words to describe the way, the love I have for this woman. Right. And, and I think about the way she provides for the people around her. Right. And, to be able to give that back and repay that, I knew I was going to have to step outside my comfort zone. You know what I mean? To be able to take care of my mother the way she's taken care of everyone else around her entire life, I knew it was going to take a little extra. And you know what? Like, not only do I deserve that, but like the people that love me deserve that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I believe that the people around, if I didn't go down this path and I didn't take this opportunity, not only was I letting myself down, but those people that look up to me and, and share that unconditional love in my life, I'd be letting them down for sure. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, with us not really like stepping through some like uncomfortable conversations, some uncomfortable feelings, right? Outside of like getting sober, right? And really finding, which again, I still don't even know what my purpose is.
Right.
But I know that I'm trying to be as authentic and transparent as possible. And wherever that takes me, it takes me.
It takes you.
But at the end of the day, like, wouldn't I be doing myself a disservice if I didn't?
100%. And again, I think you do everyone involved in your life a disservice, right? Like you got kids, you got a wife, right? You have all these things and these people that, count on you, look up to you, that,
Let's talk about that, dude, because she's going to watch this podcast, right? Like, what was she doing? What was she doing? Like, She didn't see that pothole.
Yeah. I mean,
Come on now.
Was there a pothole?
Was
Had
it
to
a
be a
curb?
pothole.
I mean,
know?
she'll never tell me.
$700 later, one rim and a tire. You know what I mean?
Oh, we didn't have to go over the price, dude. I told her it was. I told her it was told her it was $320.
Honest program we live here, buddy.
Absolutely, yeah. But listen, you know what I mean? Like she was all excited, right? Because she made a comment, right? Like she's grinding, right, at her job, right? She does recruiting for a living, and you know, I know that she was excited because she was getting like a bonus for placing somebody. And she alluded to the number, you know what I mean? And hopefully she doesn't watch up until this point. But I'm not going to mention it to her, right? But like, she told me the number, right? And I was like, all right, let's shoot below the number, right? So like, because she was excited about getting it. She was like, I just got a bonus. I'm not going to be able to see it. I don't know, man, but she can't drive. But
not many of them.
Hell of a mother.
Yeah.
Hell of a mother.
Yeah.
And does so much for us, for our family. Whatever. I digress. You're great. Love you, Kel. Back to betting on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't we?
Right.
We already know that if like it doesn't work out, I can go back to be like steam fitting, you know?
So,
or whatever that correct terminology would be.
I'll tell you what. Like I said, I've landed myself in a couple pretty cool rooms over the past couple months, man. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And, you know, like we talked about earlier, right? Like the 12 steps really is just a design for living. It's a blueprint to, if you want to better your life, here are some suggestions. Do with them as you please. There is one common denominator that I have found in all of these people, you know, quote unquote successful, right? And, you know, and I'll just speak for myself, my version of success, like what I see as success, you know, balanced family, and you want to call it balance, whatever, but happy wife, happy family, right? There for your family, able to spend time with kids, right? And I think when people ask me what I was after, like it's freedom, right? Freedom to be able to do these things, to be able to show up for the people that love me and that I love too, right? The one common denominator that all these guys have and like share is a belief in something greater than themselves, right? Whether that's Christianity, whether that's Catholicism, Judaism, whatever. And I used to tell new guys, dude, like, listen, I don't give a shit if you pray to Batman, bro. You know what I mean? You have to believe in something bigger than yourself, because if you don't, right, what I've learned, you know, and it's a gift and a curse, right? Ego. Right. If I'm out here running on ego, thinking that I'm you know, running the show, brother, that ship crash and burns real quick.
It's a huge point, because imagine if like you didn't, right? Let's play out a scenario that we see happen all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Jack Delaney, right? Realtor, best realtor in the game.
Yeah.
Right. Now he's fucking making content. Right. He's fucking telling all the other realtors that they're doing a horrible job, right? And like what ends up happening is like, if I'm not believing in something greater than myself, then I become God,
right?
And next thing you know, I'm Chris Woods, the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
And I've been that in my sobriety, and it's a horrible look.
Yeah,
horrible look. And like like I get nowhere, right? Not only do I get nowhere, I create problems the whole time doing it.
Yep.
Forget about what I think people think about me. Like the truth about me is that I'm a stink bug.
Yeah, dude.
You know, and it's just a horrible. The problem is that that's my default setting.
Right.
You know,
you become an extremely ugly version of yourself.
And I had a guest on, Tyler, that really slammed it home, and like I've been thinking about it ever since we did the podcast, right? Where it's like, if my recovery doesn't come first, whether I pick up or not, right? Like I'm gonna burn some shit to the ground.
Yeah. People are gonna suffer, man.
It could be my career, it could be relationships in my life, it could be my relationship with my kids, whatever
the case.
You know, so it's a huge point, right? If I'm not believing in something greater than myself, if I'm not like staying on this path, from the outside looking in, it could look like it's okay, but really, I'm like, again, I'm dying inside. Yeah. It's a really interesting point.
Dude, and it holds so much water, man. It really does. And it almost like lifts that burden, right? Because, you know, listen, man, there's not too much I haven't gone through in sobriety, brother. You know what I mean? I've gone through some pretty, you know, ugly phases of whatever the case may have been. You know, and to relate back to that version of a man, right? It was always the tough guy. It was always the guy with the most money in his pocket, right? And it was, you know, how you measured yourself as a man was like, you know, how many people you beat up on the weekend, whatever the case may have been, right? And I think back on it, the toughest shit I ever saw was that guy who saw me at that first meeting, Johnny Mack, right, in the back of the Stones, right, with 20 plus years of sobriety, with a daughter at the age of 27, on a deathbed dying of leukemia, right? And he's in the back of this meeting with his hand up because he doesn't want to drink over it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it was like one of those moments where I was like, wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, wow.
Yeah.
Like this, you know, there is no excuse being in the positions that we are today to pick up a drink.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? And, you know, the more I swallowed that pill as time went on, no matter what happened in my life, you know, death in the family, right? Broken relationships, things, you know, turning out uglier than, you know, than we envision them, right? Like, than we think how things are supposed to go.
Yeah.
Right. There was not one time that I ever thought that would make a difference, that would make things better.
Yeah.
Right. And
did you think about it? Like, did you think about like using, or did you think about drinking, or like did it? I mean, even if you
honestly,
did, like, did it just pass through?
Dude, honestly, Chris, no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was definitely times where I thought like I'd probably be better. You know, I'd be better off if I wasn't here. You know what I mean?
Some real stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely some times where I thought that, like, it would definitely get dark in that sense. But as far as like picking up, dude, like those thoughts come and go, right? Yeah. It's like, you know, we fantasize about, dude, down the shore on the beach with a Corona, like,
yeah. When we're thinking about the good times, we're not thinking about
right,
the bad. Yeah.
Right. Like, and then I run down the script of what happens after that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I get real quick, right? And you know, I think it really all does fall back on that, you know, belief in something greater than ourselves, right? That spiritual connection we look for, like, and success, right? Mind, body, spirit. The rest is just a byproduct, right? The money, the success, and those things are all like, you see it all the time, man. I come in the AA, I get a new pair of shoes, I get a new whip.
Could have all that shit and be miserable,
right?
Right. So like, there's no
I know plenty of them.
You know what I mean? So like, there's no real. We're addicts and alcoholics, right? Like, we'll get that shit quick,
right?
You know what I mean? We'll scheme,
yeah.
You know what I mean? We'll do what we got to do, but like, am I okay when I'm by myself? That's the whole name of the game,
dude. And there is really no price to put on that. You know what I mean? Like, I'll get it. Yeah, dude. Can I go out and get a new truck? For sure. That'll probably make me feel good for about a week.
Shit works until it's done.
Yeah, dude. Like, and I'm I'm totally guilty of it too. Right? I've been there, done that, and you know, and then after the week's over, then you got to sit down and you got to get real. You know what I mean? All it does, it's like Suboxone. You know what I mean? Delay pain. You know what I mean? And then you go through the pain and you grow from it.
So that's a whole other subject, right? Like, I had that same thought at one point, right? Where I was like, we're just putting off the inevitable, right? But at the end of the day, man, like, in this day and age, with the shit that's going on now,
right?
I don't know. I have different thoughts on it now, right?
Yeah, man.
Where it's like, I don't know what's right. I don't know what's right, wrong, or indifferent at this point. You know? Because, you know, when I was on Suboxone, like, yeah, it was delayed pain, right? Yeah. Because like I could go out and use and not die,
right?
Right. But like this time, like now, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, and dude, you can attest as well. The amount of people, it's almost like to some extent, dude. It's almost like we become numb, right, to the fact that like
completely numb.
We lose people in this thing. You know,
listen, we lost, you know, God rest her soul, right? Like, we lost Timmy, right?
Right.
Fucking maniac, but like, salt of the fucking earth.
Yeah.
Right. I lost my boy Murph, right?
Yeah.
Funniest dude I ever met in my fucking life, and you'd never know, right? That like, he was suffering so much mentally.
Right.
You know, and like those names, right, are endless at this point. But like, yeah, I'm absolutely
Quigley,
numb.
Stout. You know what I mean? Like, it's
But the reason why I ask, not to like breeze over like our boys have passed, right? Like, you know, but the reason why I ask about like, did you think about it, right? Because I'm going to continue to be transparent about it. I'm going to continue, right, to talk about this shit, right? Because like, the truth of the matter is like, yeah, I might have a podcast at this point, right? And like, it's really cool to see people like, great job, you know, like you're in this.
Yeah.
But like the truth of the matter is, like, we're no different than anybody that might like ever see this one day and be like struggling, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm coming up on 10 years, right?
Right.
On November 28th, God willing. And like I'm not like obsessing over it, right? But like it's a big milestone, right?
Yeah,
and I'm like,
for sure.
I've had some weird thoughts where I'm like, it's 10 years. You know what I mean?
Hey, man.
You did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I'm not saying that I want to drink, but like those are some thoughts that I'm at. Like,
Yeah.
how insane, right? For me to even think that way.
After everything that you've accomplished and all the things, right? And dude, you see it all the time, right? Like I see guys all the time that put some time together, man, and dudes that I really looked up to in this thing, and they go dance with the devil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'll tell you what, 9 times out of 10, brother, I want nothing to do with it. You know what I mean?
Brother, I'm not even. I went to treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as many times as I went to treatment,
Yeah.
there's no doubt in my mind that if I were to pick up, like, I'm
Yeah,
not just
where
going to
it
be
goes.
normal.
No, brother.
No.
I'm not built that way, man. And you know, we talk about the inside, right? You know, and just from outside looking in, right? And even seeing it with my dad, right? And I had like a front row seat to alcoholism and, you know, how it affects your life and things that you miss, right? And I'll never forget this one time, right? Like one of the best times in my sobriety was watching my little brother play baseball for the first time and get his first hit, right? Like there was nothing on the planet. I was loudest dude on the sidelines, cheering him on, dude, his whole squad. And I remember he played for Torresdale. They were playing Mayfair. They were playing Holy Towers at Mayfair. And dude, he turned 2 double plays, had 3 RBIs, right? He was 2 for 3 on the day. And I remember my dad came, you know, late in the 3rd inning, right? He left after the 5th. And after the game, my little brother got the game ball. And he runs up to me and he's like, dude, he's like, where's daddy at? And I was like, dude, he had to run. He had to go meet some, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, I replay those things in my head because I remember, like, as much as I resented that man, I become that if I don't do this.
Yeah.
Right? The only difference between me and
Flip
him.
side of it, though, because you're fucking sober, right? You're able to be there for your brother.
Hell yeah.
You know?
Hell yeah, dude.
And like, we don't give a fuck about stuff like that when we're drinking and
Nah,
drugging.
man. Nah.
Not at all.
Dude, there's been so many things that have happened. Dude, so, I mean, I know we're kind of cutting it close with time, but I'll share this story, right? Because this was probably one of the coolest things that has ever happened in my life, man. And, you know, every year from the age of 2 to 19 years old, right? Me and my old man went out to South Bend, right? We avid Notre Dame fans, right? We watched Rudy like it was Sunday church. I remember my stepmom's brother came to my little brother's christening in a Tom Brady Michigan jersey, and my dad wouldn't let him in the house with the jersey on.
Classic.
Right? Like, that's how sick my old man was. So, dude, every year we would go out to a game. So he took my little brothers out there, but they never got like the football experience, right? So when my old man passed away, I made it a pact with them. I said, listen, this year we're going to a game. We're going out to South Bend, right? My dad got cremated, you know, St. Mary's Lake, where Rudy opens the letter. He gets into Notre Dame. Like, we were going to go throw some ashes in the lake for him. Go down the grotto, drop a prayer card, light a candle. Right. So I tell them, I'm like, listen, this year we're going out to a game. I'm booking it. And it was November 5th, 2022. Notre Dame played Clemson. Right. Notre Dame stinks. They just lost to Marshall Beat too. Phillies are in the World Series. Right. We just went to a game, the game before they clinched for the Padres. And I told him, I was like, listen, Notre Dame stinks. If you guys want, I'll sell these tickets, right? They weren't cheap. Clemson was number 4 in the country at the time. I was like, we could go to a World Series game if you want. They were like, nah, dude, we want to go out. So I'm like, all right. So we fly into Chicago, drive out to South Bend. We do the deal. We go to the lake, hit the grotto, light a candle. We go to Touchdown Jesus, drop some ashes in the garden, right? And my little brother's like, dude, we got to get these on the field. And they do like a tunnel walk, right? So they let the pedestrians walk down the tunnel where the team runs down before the game. So we go do that. We're standing in the end zone. And there's like all these pedestrians around. So I tell him, I'm like, listen, I'm like, Brandon, we're probably not going to be able to make this happen. You know what I mean? And he's like, all right. So, you know, Saturday morning, I wake up, me and my little brother go to a AA meeting in the library. Dude,
on campus?
On campus.
That's pretty sick.
Dude, it was
That's pretty awesome.
It was so sweet, dude. And I was out there, me, my little brother Aiden, Brendan, my cousin Jimmy, and my stepbrother Matt, right? And we go to this AA meeting in the morning, dude. We meet a couple from Delco. We're chopping it up, and
there's always
some they're everywhere, dude. They're everywhere. So
they linger.
Can't get rid of them, right? But dude, so it's a Saturday night game, man. Where we watch the band walk over with the team after church, and there is no experience like that, man. I tell you, and like, I don't know if it's just because I'm a diehard Notre Dame fan. I'm sure there's some people out there that would say otherwise, but dude, like just that feeling, right? I'm in tears, like they're strutting into the stadium, and I say, listen, dude, if this gets out of hand, we'll go up the street, we'll go to the bar, and we'll watch the Phillies game or whatever. And first play of the game, pick 6, Notre Dame. Right, Notre Dame's up 7-0, and we're like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like this,
Clemson's number 4 in the country.
Clemson's number 4 in the country. Clemson's on their way to a national title, right? And dude, it was out of control. Notre Dame was up 31-7, I believe, if I remember correctly, with 4 minutes left in the game, and we sneaked down to the student section, right? All 5 of us, and dude, we're swaying with the student body, man. The clock hits 0. Notre Dame wins. Dude, crushes Clemson's national title dreams, dude, and they open the floodgates, man, and we're in the end zone, like on the field, dropping ashes, going nuts with the student body, man, and like that shit don't happen, bro.
You want to talk about believing in something greater than yourself, though,
dude.
And I don't know, like, it doesn't really matter, right? It's just you and I, but like if anybody was actually listening and like paid attention to like the actual key points in this episode, right? Like, no, shit like that doesn't happen.
It
right? Don't. Especially you with like your father's ashes, right? Your stepbrother, your brothers, right? And like all of you guys there at the same time, right? Die-hard Notre Dame fans, hate in the comments if you want.
Yeah.
They're like, it's like a whole cult, but like, like again, like shit like that does not happen.
It don't,
and
man.
you want to tell me that like you don't believe in something greater than yourself?
Yeah, man.
Dad was there, right? Say what you want about him, you know what I mean? But
right.
like, he was there.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool fucking experience.
Dude, it was, like I said, no words can explain how I felt, even to this day. And, it's always that little reminder, you know what I mean? Keep pushing.
Yeah.
Hang on. Right? Because this shit's going to get rocky, dude. You know what I mean? It's never smooth sailing. It's always going to be a challenge. There's always going to be an obstacle. There's always going to be something in your way trying to tell you no, right? And it's just really like, how hard can you push? You know what I mean? How resilient are you? And I think that, being sober and going down the path and roads that we have, right? Resilience is key to all of that, right? And I think that that transpires into exactly the route we're going today. You know what I mean? In this whole entrepreneurship, taking a chance on yourself, building your own brand, whatever the case may be, whatever the hell you want to call it, dude.
Yep.
Resilience. You know what I mean? And just being able to hunker down, man, and
let the cards fall where they may.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So with that, we'll probably end it, right? Because we don't want to fucking botch that. Because I mean, that's the whole name of the game.
Mic drop.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
With that, what a better time, listen. Like, follow, subscribe.
Right.
Pain with a purpose.
I'll probably do that too.
Yeah.
I don't even know what like subscribe means, dude. Honestly,
I don't even know, but I've been told to say it.
But
right?
I'm going to do it.
Yeah. What are we calling? It's not Better Call Jack.
Nah, deal with Delaney.
Deal with Delaney. That's the Instagram handle.
DelaneyDeals.
DelaneyDeals. We'll put it up on the thing.
Yeah.
Great headshots too. If you ever find this guy on, God.
Oh man.
I don't think the viewers at home even know. Listen, no Diddy, but like handsome ain't even the word.
Man.
But yeah, deal with Delaney. Like, follow, subscribe. Pain with a Purpose podcast. Apple, Spotify, Pain with a Purpose podcast, and on Instagram, Pain W Purpose. we love the support. It keeps us going. We don't plan on stopping down or slowing down anytime soon. Anything you want to say before we shut it down?
Nah, man, it's been a pleasure, dude. You know, like I said, I think this whole thing's great, man. I love seeing guys, you know, especially close friends, you know, like yourself, like, let's get the fuck after it. You know what I mean? I don't think there's any I don't think there's any better feeling than, you know, watching somebody take that step and get outside their comfort zone and grind it out.
Yeah, man.
You know? And I think that's the beautiful thing, especially with our crew and our group of people that we surround ourselves with. You know what I mean? I think that has a lot to do. You know, they say, like, you know, show me who your crew is, I'll show you how good you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you botched it. Show me your friends, right? I'll show you who you are.
Yeah, I botched it, whatever, dude.
But yeah, I mean, it's so true though, dude. You know what I mean? Like, you want to talk about like resiliency and, you know, like staying, what's that one word? I don't even know if it's a made up term, but it's like the stick-to-itiveness aspect of everything, right? I mean, like Ernie Pace, Johnny Butler, Jack Delaney, right?
Yeah. CJ Orr,
right? Yeah, I don't even know him yet, but I know that I'll have him on here at some point because this dude, he makes waves, right? Anybody that's got the balls to, like, you know, drive past Ernie Pace's house at whatever time he is, and he's like, still sleeping,
dude.
huh? Like, I mean, that classic.
Built different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's been a cool experience.
Yeah.
Right?
It's been awesome, man.
So with that, we'll see you next week. And yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in.
Check you.
I'm not editing that out.
No, you got to edit that.
No.
That has to go.
That's definitely stuff.